Today we're talking about the gear you need to get started in film. What's up everybody, Ethan Hall here today with another video for you, and yes, today we're talking about film gear that you need as a beginner in filmmaking. I know it can be really hard when you're first starting out trying to figure out what equipment do I need, what is this, what is that, what do I need to actually buy first. If you're a beginner and you're trying to get started, trying to figure out what gear do I need, what do I need to buy first, this video is for you. We're going to talk about it today. So yes, I know it can be very difficult, very daunting when you're first starting out trying to figure out what equipment I actually need to buy, because like you're first starting and it's like, well, what about this and that? Do I actually need to buy that? Is that something I really need? Because it's a very expensive hobby to get into. It's not cheap. But real quick before we get started, I just want to mention that the gear is not everything. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but don't get so obsessed with the equipment that you're just cutting corners and trying to, you're not spending time you need to on actually practicing just because you're so obsessed with this piece of gear and that. The gear is not the most important thing, although it is certainly something you're going to have to invest in as you continue through this journey. So just keep that in mind. Okay, starting with number one, you're obviously going to need a camera. Now, this kind of goes without saying because a camera is something that you're going to have to film something. But you can use all kinds of different cameras, especially when you're first getting started. Using your phone will work perfectly fine when you're first starting out, just experimenting. Use the camera on your phone. I know people don't like hearing this because everybody says it, but your phone camera is capable of taking some incredible video. And when you're first starting out, using your phone is a great option, especially if you're just trying to explore it a little bit, look into it. And I know filmmakers who have made incredible videos just on their phone, and they've learned from it, and it's taught them a lot, and I'm sure it's a great thing to start out with. When I was first starting out, I actually didn't even have a phone at that time. I had an old Apple iPod, an iPod Touch. And I would film with that. I would go around filming things, and I couldn't really even film indoors because the lighting was bad on that, so I'd always film outside, and I made some films with it. I learned a lot before I ever got my first actual camera.
Engage heads-up display.
Check. Sir, incoming monopods.
Also, don't be afraid to use something like a handy cam or a camcorder. I know these things are kind of obsolete nowadays because phones are going to be more accessible than something like this, but if you have one, don't be afraid to use it. They're a great place to start, and you can use it to learn. So if you got one of these lying around, don't be afraid to use it. But if you have the money and the budget, I would definitely recommend, eventually at least, trying to move up and spend a little money on a DSLR camera when you're starting out, because these are very good for teaching you all about filmmaking, and most likely you're going to be using DSLRs for many, many, many years before you ever upgrade to something bigger than that. So the first DSLR camera I ever bought was this, the Canon Rebel T2i. It is an amazing camera for starting out. Lots of people recommend it for beginners, and I would do that as well, because it's a rather cheap camera, especially since it's pretty old now. I think you can buy it for like around $200 on eBay or something like that, something close to that, used, and it's a really great camera for starting out. It'll teach you everything about DSLR cameras. It's the same image quality as much more expensive cameras like the Rebel T7i, which I'm filming on with now. It's the same image quality, it just doesn't have as many features on the actual camera itself, doesn't have the flip out screen, doesn't have Canon's autofocus, that sort of thing. But it still is an amazing camera when you're starting out, and I would highly recommend it. Now number two is obviously kind of go with cameras that you're going to need a lens to put on your camera. Unless you buy a camera that has a permanent lens attached, but most DSLRs are going to have detachable lenses where you attach your own lenses to them. When you're starting out, just go with the kit lens that comes with your camera. Some cameras you buy will come with a lens called a kit lens, or you can purchase one. The standard Canon kit lens is actually really good. It's the 18 to 55 millimeter f1.4 to 5.6, and it's a great lens for starting out. This one is the first lens that came with my first camera, and this is actually a very old kit lens, which is terrible. The glass in this one is awful, and it just looks terrible. But I semi-recently purchased the T7i, which I'm filming with now, and I bought the newer Canon kit lens that came with it, and I have been blown away with how good this little kit lens is. I'm filming with it right now. It's so easy to use, and it's so inexpensive. So if your camera comes with one of the newer kit lenses from Canon, definitely use it. It's worth it, and it'll be a good starter lens. Once you improve and stuff, you can start purchasing some more expensive lenses. But to start with, that's a great lens. It's got a good focal range, 18 millimeters to 55 millimeters. If you don't know anything about lenses, I highly suggest you do a little research about them. It can be confusing at first about what millimeters are, what a lens does. So look that up and do a little research on that before you start purchasing them. Okay, after you've got a camera and a lens, you're probably going to want something you can put your camera on. Because as tempting as it is when you're starting out to just take your camera and hold it and walk around and film, try not to do this as much as possible, because especially when you get into something like a DSLR, just holding it, unless you are really, really, really good at it, is going to look bad. It's just going to look shaky, it's going to look jittery, and it's going to be obvious that you don't really know what you're doing. So you're probably going to want to invest in some sort of tripod. Tripods are awesome for video because obviously you can use them just like I'm using this one now, just to put this camera and have it sitting there. Or you can, if you get a video tripod, you can get the kind that has very smooth, it's called a fluid head on it, and you mount your camera to it and you can pan and tilt very smoothly, and it's really great for getting all those sort of shots. And you would not believe how many shots you actually use a tripod for. I use them constantly. They're not my favorite look. I mean, obviously I'd rather have the camera moving in some way, but they're often overlooked because they're so simple, but they are a necessity and you really need to have one. This is the Davis and Sanford FM18 tripod. I picked this up a couple years ago. It's been a great tripod as far as the head goes. I wouldn't exactly recommend it for a beginner. It can be a little bit on the pricier side, like $130, I think. Also, one thing that I don't really like about this one is how bulky it is. The legs are huge. When you do the kind of filming I do, where it's running gun, you're trying to get out there and set up real quick, filming weddings, whatever it is, this sort of a tripod isn't the best because it's so bulky and heavy, and it takes a lot of work to carry it around with you all day. So I would recommend starting out with buying a cheaper tripod, especially if you're just getting started. Look for something that's a fluid head tripod, though. You don't want a photography tripod because those heads are going to be terrible. You're going to want something that's smooth. So I'll put some links in the description, some different tripods you can try to purchase on Amazon that I would recommend. My first tripod was an Amazon Basics tripod. The legs I still use today. I'm using them now. They're not the sturdiest. I wouldn't put like a cinema camera on them or anything. But for starting out with, they're really good. And I picked up a different head to put on it because the first head was trash. But it's a great tripod. I use it constantly because it is a lot lighter than this one. So for anything like a short film, I'll probably end up using this. And if I'm running gun, I'll use the other one just because it's lighter, easier to work with. So definitely pick yourself up a tripod, something that you can put your camera on, give your camera some legs, and you'll be glad you did. All right, next thing up on our list is audio. Now, audio is very important because it has been said that audio is half of your film, and it is true. If you have great video but bad audio, people are going to turn you off immediately, just because audio is one of those things that you don't think about until it's bad, and then you're like, wow, that audio is terrible. So make sure you get yourself some good audio when starting out. Most cameras come with a built-in microphone on them. Your phone obviously will, a handy cam, even DSLRs, but normally that microphone's going to suck. It's just going to be a bad microphone. You're not going to want to use it if you can help it, just because it's going to sound bad and tinny. So as you can see, the camera audio just sounds awful. Try not to use it if you can help it, because it's going to be much better just to use some microphone's audio some way. And the camera's audio is just not good enough to really get you by. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll actually take their microphone, they'll use something like a shotgun microphone, which is this, which is a very standard microphone that's used. It's got a special pattern in it that is made to pick up sounds that are right in front of it and try to cancel out sounds on the sides. So it's a great thing to pick up when you're starting. A lot of people will take this and they'll stick it on top of their camera in what's called the hot shoe mount. Slide it on top, screw it down, and then they'll plug it directly into the side of their camera. And if you have a little bit more of an expensive camera, that is a great option, because the more expensive cameras have better, it's called audio gain or whatever it's called, and they work much better for picking up this kind of audio. But some cameras, like this original one, like I had, the T2i, do not do well with that at all, and it'll end up sounding pretty bad. So what you're going to want to do in that case is try to get something you can record the sound into. So you might want to pick up something like this, which is called a field recorder, which is basically a little audio recorder. And this has some microphones built into it, but it's got ports on the side you can plug microphones into for whatever you're wanting to record. So I used this all the time when I was starting out because it was the only way I could actually record audio. I would take my shotgun mic or whatever microphone I was using, and I would get an extension cable between the two so that it was a little longer. And then I would plug shotgun mic directly into the field recorder like this. Once I did that, it would record it all to a little SD card on here. Then when I was editing, I could take it into post, sync it up. This is traditionally how it works in movies. They don't record the audio directly to the camera. They have own separate people who are recording their own audio. And if you're doing a short film or something, that's probably the best way to go. But if you're doing something like this, like a YouTube video, it can be a big pain to try to sync up your audio every time, even though it can be done, and I've done it like that for quite a while until I got a nicer camera that had the better audio inputs on it. So definitely think about picking up a field recorder. Something you can do when you're starting out is certain microphones can actually record into your phone. You can buy them to record and just use like your voice recording app if you don't have a field recorder. Plug the microphone in and try recording it that way. You just got to make sure it works. Sometimes it can be a little weird, doesn't always work right, but that is an option. So there are all sorts of different kinds of microphones. There are shotgun mics like we talked about. There are condenser mics that are more like traditional studio microphones, even like lavalier microphones like I'm using right now to record this one with. All kinds of stuff that work great and you can use for different scenarios. But if you're just starting out, again, it depends on what you're filming. If you're trying to film just like YouTube videos like this, I would recommend something like this lavalier mic, because it's a great way just to hook it up to your camera and works great. But if you're just starting out, one of the first microphones I would pick up would be a shotgun mic, because it can be used in all kinds of scenarios. You can mount it on a boom pole and put it above your head, which is what I would actually do if I could. But I don't have a real expensive shotgun mic. This is a very cheap one I ordered, one of my first microphones I ordered. And it is called the Takstar SGC 598. When I ordered this, it was like $30 or something like that. Very cheap, but pretty good sound for the price. But I would order something like this and just start experimenting with audio. If you have a nicer camera, hook it up to your camera, do it like that. If not, think about buying a field recorder, hooking it up separately, and try and get some great audio. It will definitely improve your quality of your films, and is a great place to start. All right, the next thing up on our list is a computer, because after you've filmed everything, you're definitely going to have some way to edit it. Otherwise, you've just got a bunch of little video clips that you can't really do anything with. So you're definitely going to need some kind of a computer you can get some software on to edit your videos. Now, when you're starting out, this doesn't need to be a huge desktop or anything like that. It can just be something as simple as a laptop, something that you can use just to download some software on and edit your videos. This is a Dell laptop I got several years ago, and I used it for a long time. Before I built my PC, I used this Dell laptop and I hooked up some monitors to it and recorded and edited a lot of my videos with this laptop right here. I've actually even heard of people using their tablets to edit their videos. I think there's a really great app out, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll try to put it up on the screen for you. That's really supposed to be really good for editing. It's like a couple dollars or something, and I've heard a lot of people saying good things about it. And I've never tried it, but I think that's probably a good place you can start. You can probably even, if you have like an iPhone, get like the Apple's iMovie app or whatever and try editing some things. Think about using like a built-in app on your phone like iMovie, or downloading an editing app. So those are the basic things you really need to start out filming. Now, I know we didn't cover everything. There are lots of things we left out, but when you're just getting started, you don't need to worry about all the other stuff. Just get the things that you really need, the basics, and start filming. And the last thing I really want to talk to you about is your mindset, because don't let all this gear bog you down and bog down your creativity. You just need to get out and film. All you have is an iPhone, get out and film with it. It doesn't matter. Make amazing stuff, because you're not going to learn if you don't. Don't wait on that one piece of gear that you think you have to have before you can start filming, because in reality, it's not going to make you a better filmmaker. But if you learn, then you get that piece of gear, you'll become better because you're learning without it. I remember when I was starting out, I was hardly ever filming anything because I was always waiting for that next piece of equipment I had to have. When I got my first DSLR camera, I remember I didn't hardly film at all because I was so into the gear I had to have. And you know, we all love gear. We all love looking at gear, and it's a great thing to do, but don't let it stop you from being creative just because you think you need that next piece of gear, when really you're going to get it and you're going to find out, oh, well, it wasn't as great as I thought, and now I'm just got one more piece of gear and less money in my wallet. Now, I'm not saying gear does not help you. You definitely are going to want to build your arsenal as you get bigger and You're going to want to upgrade things, but that is not what filmmaking should be about. Filmmaking is not about the equipment. It's about your creativity, figuring things out, filming stuff that wows people, and in the end, it's not going to matter what camera it was shot on. It's just going to matter what the audience thinks of it, and that's what your goal is, just to make stuff that entertains people, and you'll be a success if you do. So, take the equipment that you have right now, go outside with it, film some videos, learn from it. Don't always be worrying about the equipment that you don't have, just worry about what you do have, and you'll be able to upgrade as you get bigger. And I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do. So be sure to comment down below, let me know, show me some of the stuff that you've made. I'd love to watch it. And be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And until then, we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Say Wednesday. It is a Wednesday, isn't it? I hate Wednesdays. Wednesdays are like my least favorite day of the week. It's because it's like you're like halfway through the week and you still have like half the week to go, and you've already been through half the week, and you're just like, I don't want to do this. I want the weekend. Where's the weekend? And oh well, we're pushing through it. We're gonna push through it.